Boxing Day, wow, oh wow, what a serving of championship action we had on Boxing Day. So much to talk about, Justin, so we may as well jump in straight away with West Brom, who of course lost Carlos Corberán on Christmas Eve, and just to make it an extra miserable Christmas, they also lost 2-1 away at Derby. Chris Brunt was in charge for this one, which I liked. Justin, love a club legend stepping in as the caretaker. Just feels right, doesn't it? But a deserved win for the Rams, I thought, in this one, Justin.
Yeah, certainly was. I think first half is what you want to see from this team. There was energy, there was technical quality on display. And just the way they started the game was I mean, it took me by surprise. And I think it probably took West Brom by surprise as well. I thought everything that was going forwards, the ball was won very deep in Derby's half, and they were able to pass through the halves. So it was a very exciting, I thought, first half from Derby. Dropped off in the second half as West Brom took it up a gear. But I thought Derby throughout the game were very productive, very energetic, and very organised. There was a point in the second half, in the last 15 minutes, where I turned around to my dad and I thought, okay, Derby are going to give this away, because West Brom were looking really, really good. But it wasn't to be. Sonny Bradley came on and shored things up, if you like, and it was one of those games where probably could have been a lot more comfortable for the Rams.
Yeah, I mean, it was pretty comfortable for the most part, wasn't it? Because West Brom didn't manage a shot on target in the first hour. After that, they really started to push, obviously got the goal back, but it didn't feel to me like Derby were in serious danger here, despite West Brom's pressure and on the balance of play. They were the better team over the 90 minutes, I thought. One player I wanted to give a shout out for, Justin, who's quickly becoming the most popular person in Derby, which is odd because it sounds like Derby fans are booing him when they say his name all in unison. It's Ebou Adams. The man does not stop running, does he? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I think this was an interesting game because I thought it was pretty much to be the cliche, a game of two halves, where I thought Ebou Adams in the first half wasn't much use because Derby dominated, so his main role of being destructive wasn't necessary. But the second half is where he really kicked in. It's when the game got quite tough for Derby. You've got Adams in there, and defensively felt like he was the only midfielder at times because Derby, he was the only one that had presence, I think, in that midfield, because Derby had Kenzo Houdmeen and Marcus Harness, who were, I think, defensively not proficient enough, if you like, but that's okay because that's not their game. But they needed to adapt in this one because they didn't have Liam Thompson or Ben Osborne. I think what epitomises Ebou Adams actually is there was a moment where he lost the ball, he then wins it back, and he, before playing a pass, he punches the floor in frustration. He's trying to play the perfect game, which I absolutely love. He's an enthusiastic player, and his ability to win the ball back, regain possession, and get Derby going again is brilliant. And I think for me, he's probably he's been one of the best top performing midfielders in the division for that sort of game.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of that, Justin. He's not the most technically gifted footballer on earth, is he? That much we can say. He's not the kind of guy who's going to be spraying 50-yard balls around the park. But if you're looking for someone who never stops running, covers every blade of grass, and wins the ball back, he's been the best in the division at that. He's made by far the most tackles and interceptions. Justin, this is astonishing. The player who's made the second most tackles and interceptions this season is Shea Charles at Sheffield Wednesday on 95. Ebou Adams is on 127. That is mad, isn't it? He is a ball-winning machine in the middle of the park for the Rams, and that's why Derby fans absolutely adore him. He must have covered the most ground in the whole of the Championship, and I doubt anyone else comes close to him. And he is proving to be a key figure for the Rams this season. So cracking season he's having. But from a West Brom perspective, just as we say, first game since the departure of Carlos Corberán, if he was still in charge for this game, how different do you think this game could have been?
It's interesting. I don't think they'd have been as disjointed in the first half. There was no press. There wasn't much build-up play in the first half. It didn't really have any flow. I think given how meticulous Corberán is, I don't think they'd have looked as disjointed and as poor as they were. I mean, credit to Chris Brunt and Bert Myhill for doing the impossible here. This is a difficult job to come in and do. And when you lose your manager, it's that week in Christmas where I have no idea what day of the week it was. Was it Monday or Tuesday where Corberán where it was confirmed that it was off?
It was Tuesday, it was Christmas Eve.
Yeah. So, they've not had any time to work on anything, have they? And it's going into this game, always going to be difficult, especially Derby at Pride Park. And I thought they put in a good effort. But as I say, I think that first half is where West Brom lost it, because Derby were brilliant. They got a 1-0 lead. And it just felt like they didn't have a cohesive press or a cohesive sort of method of getting the ball forwards. It was a bit disjointed. The second half, loads better.
Yeah, well, let's talk about Corberán's departure, Justin, because he has left West Brom. He's gone to his hometown club, Valencia. The Spanish side paid a release clause believed to be between £3 and £4 million. Corberán said on social media that the decision to leave West Brom was the hardest of his life. In a statement, West Brom said he leaves with the club's gratitude and best wishes. So all seems pretty amicable. It was announced 20 minutes before Christmas Day, Justin. What a present for Albion fans that is.
That's rough, isn't it? That is rough.
I imagine
Honestly.
loads of West Brom fans would have been in the pub and looked at that and went, ah. I mean, they probably knew by that point that he's probably going anyway. But 20 minutes before midnight on Christmas Eve is absolutely astonishing. But as I say, he seems to have been all very amicable. I don't think anyone can blame him for wanting to go to his hometown club, and West Brom fans will have a lot of gratitude for what he's done for them.
Yeah, no doubt about that. He's guided the club in the direction he has under the circumstances he has, and done it with a lot of composure and a lot of pride. He thrived under the circumstances he had, and that's why he was much adored. And I think that's why there was much, I guess, understanding of his decision, because it's been a long 2.5 years. And that's not even considering the football side of things. He's a tactically gifted manager. He's very patient. He's very structured in his approach. He's very humble as well. I think the team looked destined for the top under him. But I think timing in football is a big thing. And I think if Corberán had come in this season, for example, I've said this before, this team's ceiling, I think, would be so high, despite the squad turnover in the summer and the cuts. That's how much I rate Carlos Corberán and what he can do as a manager.
Yeah, well, this is an astonishing stat, Justin. Out of every manager who's been in charge of more than 60 games for West Brom, Carlos Corberán has the best win rate out of any of them. That is mad, isn't it? And that's before you even consider everything that he's had to deal with. When he took over, West Brom were second bottom, Justin. They were a mess on and off the pitch. And Carlos Corberán has single-handedly dragged the whole club out of the dirt with next to no money to work with, and a budget which has been consistently cut back because they are under an EFL imposed business plan. And look, West Brom are obviously a massive club with plenty of seasons recently in the Premier League, but the fact they got a top 6 finish last season and he's had them consistently battling for the playoffs for virtually the entirety of the time he's been there is remarkable. Because they could have easily capitulated as a club under the previous owner, and he's not just kept them afloat; he's had them thriving. So that's why we rate him so highly. I mean, I can't believe I've heard murmurings recently from some West Brom fans complaining about his football, because what he's done for the club has just been incredible, and that's why it's a big blow that he's gone, Justin. So where do you think this leaves West Brom going forwards?
I mean, there might be some West Brom fans, or all of them, who disagree with this, but I think Corberán, for me, looking back, is probably the best manager they've had since Roy Hodgson. As I say, feel free to disagree with me on that one, but if you look at how well he's done under the stresses and strains, no manager in the last 15 years at the Hawthorns has had to manage under. He's kept this team simmering in and around the playoffs. It's quite astonishing to be able to do that. So I think bringing in a coach who can do the same will be hard, because I don't think you get those types of managers very often. And I think all you can say right now is Carlos Corberán has gifted the next manager stability, a good, well-rounded squad with a talented group of youngsters breaking through into it. Mixed with a lot of experienced pros who looked like they were going nowhere in their careers, who are now back on a positive key. Look at Alex Mowat, Carl Bartley, there are Darnell Furlong, there are others who are really not going in the right direction with their careers. But he's turned them around, and he's turned them into very good championship players again. So I think in terms of where West Brom go, it's difficult to say at this moment, but what you can say is it's a very hard job to take over, a very talented manager, but it's a very, very good squad to come into.
I'm not sure I entirely agree with that, because I think Carlos Corberán had this team playing above a level that it's at. Because for me, it's lacking in some areas to be a top 6 squad. The thing that made it a top 6 squad, in my eyes, was the tactical nous and coaching ability of Corberán. Probably because he probably was the best in the league. So that's why it's a massive blow. I think the other thing is West Brom right now, because of the financial restrictions, that makes it a difficult job. Corberán has said on a few occasions how difficult he's found it working under them. Of course, West Brom, huge club and everything. But if you do hold out, they should be in a better position financially in time. But in the short term, it's not the most appealing of jobs, is it? So it's going to be intriguing to see who they get in next. What you can almost certainly say is it won't be anyone as good as Carlos Corberán, because I think they struck gold with him, really, Justin.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do think they struck gold with him, but I do think that the squad is well packed with talent in the forward areas. Need to work defensively, but there is a good enough squad to compete with there. Whether or not they get into the playoffs is another story. I have an inkling that it wouldn't have been the case this season, because I do think there has been a drop off in the summer because of squad cuts and whatnot. But
do you think they'll get anyone as good as Carlos Corberán?
No, I don't. I think Carlos Corberán's, I wouldn't say one of a kind, but like I said, if you get a manager who's one of the best since Roy Hodgson at West Brom, doing that again is a very difficult thing. I think they're a very attractive club, despite being under a business plan by the EFL. They're under new ownership and things are going in the right direction. They've got a very talented academy that's going to continue to produce players, and they do have at least a very a top half squad, so they can get a manager.
I agree with that, Justin, but in the short term it's not the most attractive, is it, because of the financial restrictions that we've spoken about plenty of times this season? Yeah,
but those financial restrictions aren't going to stay for the next 2-3 years, are they? It'll be reviewed, and it'll be constantly reviewed, and as I say, new ownership brings that into light. And I think with that, you start to build until the end of the season. You use this season as a platform to build for next season, whether that be a push for the playoffs this season, or it's a dampening of expectations, and we see where we go with the new manager. So I don't think the club's an unattractive proposition. It's probably not as attractive as it once was, but then again, the likes of Valérien Ismaël and Steve Bruce were the previous managers before Carlos Corberán. So was it really that attractive to the outside world? Maybe, maybe not.
Well, it'll be very interesting to see who they do get in. Just quickly, Justin, 5 in 10, name 5 former West Brom managers.
Slaven Bilic, Roy Hodgson, Steve Bruce, Pepe Mel, Tony Pulis.
Pepe Mel. I love to hear that. Well done, Justin. Keeping you on your toes, just to make sure you're not overstuffed with, I was going to say turkey, but you don't eat turkey, do you?
No, that's offensive.
Pepe Mel. What a cracking name to hear. This Boxing Day. Burnley have become the first away team to win at Bramall Lane this season, Justin. They beat Sheffield United 2-0. This was a meeting between first and third. So what a massive result for the Clarets this was, Justin.
Oh, bloody huge. If you have to have a near perfect game, don't you, to go away to Bramall Lane and get a result, or catch Sheffield United on a bad day. And I don't think this was Sheffield United on a bad day. The reason why I say Sheffield United on a bad day, because I think the only bad day they've had was at home to QPR in August, where they dropped 2 points by conceding 2 late goals. But I don't think Sheffield United were particularly poor here. I think Burnley edged a tight game with a bit of quality and a lot of defensive organisation. And that's why I think your game plan has to be perfect. I think that's why you can throw a lot of praise towards Scott Parker, because he allowed Sheffield United to control the game, and they were home and hose, weren't they? With 2-0 win. Crazy.
Yeah, it's not the first time we've said this season when it's come to this type of game, Justin. It was a tactical masterclass from Scott Parker, wasn't it? He just absolutely nails these games. And whether you like him or not, you've got to say fair play to him, because this is what he is absolutely brilliant at. I can barely recall a Sheffield United chance. And that's not something that's happened at all, really, this season, particularly at Bramall Lane. Sheffield United have been so dominant at home. They've not conceded a goal there since August. So for Burnley to go there and win 2-0 and control the game, never really looked in trouble either. It was just a top-class performance. And it is amazing how good Scott Parker is in these big games, Justin.
It is amazing. And I think, like I said, Scott Parker was saying in his post-match presser that they were quite happy to relinquish control in the game. But to do that and still be assured that your attacking play is going to get your results, I think is that shows me there's a big change in Scott Parker's mentality of pushing the team forward. I know they can be a very boring, bland side, but actually I think over the last 2, maybe 3 months, they've really started to advance themselves. And I think when you're doing that, when you're being a lot more productive in the attacking third and in these big games, you are edging them. I think it's quite a remarkable turnaround in philosophy, and I think that's what Scott Parker's doing here. And as I say, the confidence to relinquish the control of the game, give it to Sheffield United, and allow them to think that they're on top. Yeah, I think it's brilliant, and I think Scott Parker as a tactician is certainly better as a philosophy manager, if you like.
It's very Scott Parkerish to have been the only away side to have won at Bramall Lane this season, only away side to have won at Ellen Road this season, the one of only 2 teams to win away at Carrow Road in the past 12 months. But they've also failed to beat Derby, Preston and QPR at Turf Moor. Yeah. Must be quite annoying, that, mustn't it? But it's something we've said before on this show. I've been more confident in backing Burnley in this type of game away at a big side than I would at home against a relegation struggle. It's so strange, but Scott Parker is just brilliant when it comes to approaching these games. When a team is open and coming at them, they know how to punish them. It's when a team sits back that they do really struggle. Nonetheless, it's very impressive. And it's seen them go just 1 point behind Sheffield United and Leeds. And they're putting forward quite a convincing case when it comes to automatic promotion, aren't they, Justin? And an increasingly convincing case, we must say.
Yeah, but what needs to happen is transpiring the quality and calmness into games where teams will sit back, as you were alluding to, Ryan. There has been a formula in recent weeks where it has been working. We've seen wins against Watford, Stoke, Bristol City and Swansea where they have opened these teams up time and time again, and we're seeing it more often. And then you get a game like this, like Sheffield United, where it's a tight game, but Burnley are edging it with the quality that they've got, and that's a big positive. They're taking huge strides forward, and I think that's only going to enhance those promotion chances.
Well, not long ago, we were saying they had no chance of getting in the top 2 if they kept playing as they were, and that's because they weren't playing well at all. They were lumbering against sides they should be beating, weren't they? But that's not been the case recently, or is not as much as the case recently, because they have been so much better in those types of games, much more of a cutting edge, and as we mentioned, they're exceptional in games where they're the less fancied side, shall we say. So as long as that continues, they'll definitely prove us wrong. I recall that when Scott Parker was at Bournemouth, they were doing this. They suddenly looked like they clicked into gear and then suddenly reverted back to being poor again. So hopefully that doesn't happen here. But the bottom line is Burnley are looking more and more convincing as the weeks go by. So fair play to you, Scotty Parker. Let's go to Oxford, who beat Cardiff 3-2 in a big relegation 6-pointer at the Kassam Stadium. Gary Rowett's first game in charge of the U's, and he's got them just their second win in 17 games. It's the Rowett effect, Justin.
The Rowett effect, no, it's the effect of having an experienced tactician who knows how to get results at this level. And Gary Rowett is just that man, isn't he? It's a huge win. I think, it got a bit hairy towards the end, didn't it? But, this was a very convincing win, I think, from Oxford's perspective. They were they just look more comfortable, if you like, a lot more comfortable than they have done in recent weeks. And I think when you have a manager who can drill things in as succinctly and detailed as Gary Rowett does, it's going to give you confidence as a supporter. So yes, they made it hard for themselves towards the end of the game. A lot of quality with a couple of the goals, but saw plenty of little bits I think that Gary Rowett will take to build on. They looked very settled on the ball at times, or very settled without the ball. They weren't, what's the word I'm looking for? Overly tested, if you like, up until the last couple of minutes.
Well, it certainly helps when you've got someone like Przemysław Placheta scoring an absolute worldie. Someone I've never been particularly convinced about, but when he pulls out something like that, it's always quite useful. Mark Harris getting his first goal in 18 games as well. Against his former club, it's worth mentioning. He's been low on confidence for a long time, so that'll be big for him as well. I kind of disagree with what you were saying there, Justin. I don't think it did get hairy towards the end. I think the scoreline didn't properly reflect this game. The 2 late goals for Cardiff makes it seem like it was close, but wasn't really. Oxford were much the better side, and Cardiff were shocking again. But it is a massive win for Oxford because they have looked so very poor recently, haven't they? I think many Oxford fans were perhaps starting to lose hope. So this should restore a bit of confidence, Justin. And look, they've taken points off a team they were in the bottom three with heading into Boxing Day, haven't they?
Well, it becomes a 6-pointer, if you like. It's a big game against a team who are down there with you, and you need to be picking up the result. You need to be winning, and especially if you've got a new manager at the helm, winning your first game, the confidence that's going to give the squad is monumental. It's massive. It's absolutely huge. And again, you've got a Cardiff team here who are they're struggling. They're completely lost. And Oxford weren't doing much better themselves, but I think going into it, I'd have still been much more confident for an Oxford result than I would have, a Cardiff result. And that speaks volumes of Des Buckingham, settling things, but also I think, Gary Rowett coming in and the experience he has, it backs that up as well. So I do think there's a lot to come from this Oxford team under Gary Rowett. So I'm excited to see what you can do. And I think this game here is a nice little introduction to what he's capable of at Championship level.
It's hard to find many positives with Cardiff City, isn't it? No win in 9. For them, just 3 points won in that time as well. And the Cardiff fans really showed their frustrations here. They're a chance of, we want 10 out, we want our club back, sack the board, you're getting sacked in the morning, you get the general gist of it. Not very pleased from the sounds of it, are they, Justin? And before I think there was a bit of sympathy from supporters for Omar Ritza, the manager, that has very quickly dissipated, hasn't it, with this recent run of form?
With the greatest respect to Omar Ritza, he's out of his depth in the current circumstances that he's in now, isn't he? I think firstly looking at this game, I see the team making the same mistakes time after time. It's just basic things like tracking runners for the first goal, second goal conceded from a set piece. Also seeing some repeat behaviours fall back into this team. For example, they're keeping a lot of the ball without never really looking like they're going to threaten. Saw a lot of that in this game, and how often have we said that under Errol Bullitt, for example? So there's a lot creeping in, and I think we know the issues at board level. We're aware of this. Not good at all. We know that's a recipe for relegation. But if you've got a manager who knows what he's doing at this level, like a Gary Rowett, it makes your team overperform, and it completely takes away from takes the light away from bad ownership. So a huge cock up there from the ownership in not bringing in an experienced manager when they could have. Now they brought in Omar Ritza, and he's the pressure of being 22, 23 games into the season and losing. It's there, and he's not the man, I think, to handle that, unfortunately.
Well, it always seemed a bit strange giving him the job, didn't it? We've always said that, especially when it took so long for them to decide who the next manager was going to be. And it's very, very, Cardiff fans will be very aware that they've had previous when it comes to giving caretaker managers the permanent gig. And it was particularly odd giving it to him when the results had quite clearly started to turn already. The mind-blowing thing is, Justin, it's only been 3 weeks since he was given the permanent job. And you've got fans calling for him to be sacked already. But this is not unusual with Cardiff City. They've been a terribly run club for a long time. And we've sometimes got stick from Cardiff fans for saying that, but surely no one is defending the club's board now. And when you're farcically run over a long period of time, the Championship has a habit of punishing you for that, and Cardiff have been circling that plug hole for multiple seasons, and now the joint bottom of the table, 3 points from 9 games, a manager who's seemingly out of his depth, and a board who don't know their arse from their elbow. It's a complete and utter mess.
Yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? Like I said, it's a recipe for relegation. We saw Reading. I know their situation is a little bit more severe in the sense that they're very close to going out of business because of the ownership. But Cardiff, whether or not they're close to that is another story for another day. But when you've got an owner that's disinterested in the club, who's not funding it like he once was, and it's not being run effectively or sustainably. It's unfortunately it's your train ticket to the third tier. It's not, things aren't going to go well for you. I do think the squad's much better than it is, which is why I think a more experienced manager can get more out of this team. But unfortunately, the confidence in the club finding and picking the right man, because I had 3 months to do it with Omar Ritza, the confidence isn't there at all.
Yeah, if you're taking 3 months to decide on who your manager is and you still end up with Omar Reitzer, then Jesus, I don't have much hope for whoever comes in after him. Justin, let's go to the second tier bet builder. This is what we predicted on, I was trying to remember what day it was now. It was the day before Christmas Eve, wasn't it? Christmas Eve, where we did the preview show brought to you by SBK, and our bet builder was on our game of the day for Boxing Day, Sheffield United v Burnley, and a £10 stake was due to return £70. We had Burnley double chance, which of course was a winner. We had Sheffield United to have under 13.5 shots. They only had 9, so that came in as well. But we also predicted both teams to score, which wasn't a winner, and Burnley to have over 10.5 shots. They had 8, so no luck for us there. On to our multiple, a £10 stake on that was due to return 190 big ones. We had 4 selections for this for Boxing Day. Burnley double chance, obviously a winner. Coventry to win. That was a winner as well. Watford to win. That was a winner too. Then we also had Justin's outsider of QPR to win. They lost 3-0. Justin, what's your problem?
Whoa. It's an outsider. It's an outsider for a reason. All right. It's like all that travel. We mentioned it, wasn't it? Yeah, it's difficult this time of year to having to travel that far. And unfortunately, London to South Wales is a fair old distance. And it didn't work for Plymouth. Didn't work for QPR.
I will briefly out producer Finn, who chose to include Justin's outsider because Justin's leading in the predictions this season. That's why he went with that one. I said we should include my outsider of Oxford to win, which did win, didn't it? So actually, it's producer Finn who cost us a massive win on our multiple. Let's all point the fingers at him. But we'll be back with another round of picks in the next preview show brought to you by SBK next Thursday. So we'll see how we get on then. Justin, let's take a quick break. After that, we'll talk about Sheffield Wednesday coming from 3 goals down to draw 3-3 away at Middlesbrough, and Frank Lampard v Wayne Rooney. Welcome back to the Second Tier Podcast. We are talking about all the Boxing Day action from across the Champo. And we're going to go to Sheffield Wednesday next, who came from 3 goals down to draw 3-3 away at Middlesbrough. 3-0 up at half-time were Borough. 16 minutes into the second half, and it's 3-3, plus Middlesbrough were a man down. What a capitulation by Borough here, Justin.
Oh, yeah. It's crazy, really, actually. So many good things and good play in that first half from Borough. They were in such a commanding position, and 2 changes at half-time from Wednesday. And the tide changes so fast, literally just I think a minute or so into the second half. And, just seeing Michael Carrick's face, in his post-match presser, he was so angry.
Can you
Not very
blame him?
Christmassy. Not very Christmassy, is it, Michael? But yeah, you can't blame him. But, when a game unravels that quick, it can't happen. It's stating the obvious, but game management and withstanding pressure there, it just wasn't evident. And, you get to 23 games in a season, it's a massive problem that needs fixing very, very quickly.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's more amazing, the capitulation or how quickly the capitulation happened, because you throw away a lead like that after 16 minutes of the second half is mad, isn't it? But in the end, they were perhaps lucky to have got anything from this game, because they only had 10 men. Wednesday had all the momentum after the third goal, and there was still half an hour to go. So what I'm trying to say is it could have been worse, Borough fans, but of course, drawing from that position is absolutely criminal. And Michael Carrick was unsurprisingly very miffed after the game, but it is just 1 win in 5 for them now, and it's seen them lose a lot of ground in the promotion race. And I suppose, Justin, games like this are an example of why you've had a bit of scepticism about Borough this season.
Yeah, I think they're a playoff contender, certainly, but any talk of them being an automatic promotion contender, it can't be there. They're not good enough defensively for me. Yes, there have been elements of them improving their game control and defensive resilience, but unfortunately, it's not sustainable. It's not consistent enough. You look at Leeds, Sheffield United, Burnley, even Sunderland, Blackburn. They're very good defensive teams. They keep clean sheets. They limit opposition very, very well. Middlesbrough don't do that. They're far too open. I do think the absence of Aidan Morris is being felt. There's a ball winner in there who can get play going. Midfield is looking easy to play through right now, and lightweight, but they've conceded they've conceded 31 goals. Don't care what underlying data says. However, you can't mask that. 31 goals for a team wanting to get promoted is not good enough. And I think it's been the downfall of them not being in promotion, or not getting promoted for the last, season and a half, if you like. Last season missed out on the playoffs, season before. They were undone by a very well-drilled Coventry team. Carrick needs to sort it out, that defensive side of things. Otherwise, they're not going to get promoted under him. It won't happen.
Yeah, I do find the amount of goals Middlesbrough are conceding to be very strange, because it is back-to-back 3-3 draws, one clean sheet in 12. Obviously doesn't make for good reading, and you mentioned how many goals they've conceded this season as a whole, but the underlying data says they've actually been all right defensively. They're the 9th best team in the league when it comes to XG against, which doesn't sound amazing, but they're the only team in the top 10 to have conceded more goals than their XG against. So they're not actually giving away many chances. Why are they conceding as many goals as they are, though? I genuinely don't know. Is it down to the keepers letting in shots that they should be saving? Is it just sheer bad luck? I honestly don't know, but Borough were properly in the conversation for the top 2 for me, and this recent run has seen them drop off. I think on paper they should be a team looking to challenge for the top 2, but recent form suggests they may now have too much ground to make up, which is a real shame. Sheffield Wednesday fans won't care about that, though, will they, Justin? They've had a few mad games this season now, haven't they? And it was being pointed out in the second-tier Discord, actually, how you've got mid-table sides who are generally quite dull, don't want to name any names, but you have a side like Wednesday who are causing carnage most weeks, and Wednesday fans will obviously be hoping for more than just a mid-table campaign this season. But it's got to be said, they're a fun side, aren't they?
Look, if you're going to be a mid-table team, do it by being fucking mental, right? Like that's the way to go for it. Give away 3 goals in the first half and come out in the second half and be as good as you are. You've got. I think firstly you've got to praise the reaction from Sheffield Wednesday. It does feel like generally they're a second half team anyway. But the mentality to get back into games is very strong. I think a tactical change as well by Danny Rule going to a 4-1-4-1 really paid dividends here. Because it felt like they were going to get back into the game anyway, despite Borough going down to 10 men. I think that's really worth pointing out. They were brave in their approach against Borough's attacking quality, and it didn't relent. And I think that notion to not relent is why they make themselves a very fun team. They're very brave and they just go for it. And I think Danny Rule's playing to I don't think there's enough defensive quality to make them a defensively strong team. So why not just unleash the shackles and let them go? Just let them go. Do what they want. And there's a little bit of that, and I like that.
Yeah, just let them enjoy themselves. Got to be said, it's never dull at Sheffield Wednesday anyway when you've got Chansiri running things, but it's good to see they're interesting for all the right reasons this season. They've won 33 points so far this season, Justin. 15 of them have been won from losing positions.
There we go.
The next most won from losing positions in the Championship this season is Coventry with 10. But for a team to have won nearly half of their points this season from losing positions is mad, isn't it? And Danny Rule will probably say he'd prefer not to be losing in the first place, which is obviously understandable. But it shows this Wednesday side have a lot of heart and a lot of character. And if you're a Wednesday fan, you're still in the game no matter how badly you're losing. So why is this happening? It's probably because they're a young side, I guess, and that usually leads to inconsistency, doesn't it? But what we can say is they're probably the most entertaining side in the Championship, because you never know what's going to happen next with them. It's very difficult predicting how their games are going to go, even when they're 3-0 down at half time, Justin. But yeah, Sheffield Wednesday, what a club. Let's go to the late game last night. It was Victor Johansson versus Leeds United. Stoke City versus Leeds United. And it finished 2-0, thanks to a brace from Joel Pirro. Firstly, got to say, the fog for this game was incredible, wasn't it? You could barely see what was happening when the ball was on the other side of the pitch, Justin.
It made it unwatchable, I'm not going to lie. Leeds won the game. That's all we can tell you. It was one of them. It was really bad. It was really bad in the Northwest because it was foggy at the Derby game as well. I was there. But it wasn't nearly as bad as it was at games in the Northwest. Obviously, I think I saw Tranmere get postponed. I saw talk of Liverpool game potentially being postponed, and you got Stoke being impacted by it as well. I know it's damp that way, but come on, that's too damp.
Yeah, it did seem very bad in the Northwest. I was watching the horse racing at Aintree, obviously in Liverpool. For the final furlong, you would just see a horse appear out of nowhere. And the previous 5 minutes, you were just staring at a grey screen. Because, it was very bad, the fog in the Northwest. But yeah, on the game itself, Leeds had only won one of their previous 7 away games heading into this, and it's something we were criticising them for after that draw to Preston. So they badly needed this, and it ended up being very comfortable.
Yeah, it was a comfortable win. I think it was frustrating at times watching Leeds. I think there was a chance where it was Dan James who put a ball into Manor Solomon, and he really could have done a lot better to make it 1-0. But then Joel Pirro obviously rounded Victor Johansson, and his finish was actually quite good considering his angle. But it was at a point before that game where I thought, okay, this isn't looking. Leeds are moving the ball really well. They're getting into good areas, but they're not quite getting into Stoke. And I thought it was going to be one of those games where they really struggle again. But as soon as they went 1-0 up, I was very confident Leeds could see the game out in second gear, because Stoke offered next to nothing. So I think that's a bigger compliment as you can give Leeds, is they're very good at keeping opposition at bay once they go ahead. Just getting ahead can be the frustrating hurdle that they do come across with teams. But they got there in the end, and it was an easy win for Leeds.
Yeah, it was very easy, and I was stunned at how easy it was. Stoke did have a massive chance early on, it's worth mentioning, and I thought it might end up being another tricky away trip for Leeds, but it really was anything but. I don't think Leeds were great in this, but they didn't have to be, because Stoke didn't put them under any pressure at all. Summed up perfectly by Stoke fans ironically cheering after they had only their second shot of the game from about 30 yards out, which was never in danger of bothering Elan Meslier. I mean, Justin, if you're Stoke, why aren't you having a go at Leeds in this game? They've shown they can be vulnerable on the road. Get in their faces, rough them up a bit. I don't really know what they were trying to do in this one. And that's why Stoke fans were very annoyed. Not for the first time, because there were loud boos throughout this one after each of the goals, and then particularly at the final whistle. And it's now 1 point in 6 games. And it's not hard to see why there is so much frustration over in Staffordshire.
I just don't think Stoke could get anywhere near Leeds. I know we can talk about why didn't they have a go. I don't think Stoke were good enough to get anywhere near Leeds. And you talk about Leeds not being particularly great. I do think they moved the ball around well. They didn't cut Stoke open very often, but they moved the possession around really well and very comfortable in possession. And as I said, I don't think Stoke were anywhere near good enough to get at them. Whether that's a case of them being better out of possession, sort of in the long term under Palach is another thing. But yeah, there's a real issue with Stoke at the moment, because I still don't know what they're trying to do, style of play wise. There wasn't a press. They weren't sitting back
there, Justin, by just saying there's a real issue with Stoke.
There's a real issue with Stoke. There absolutely is, and it is annoying having to repeat the same things over and over again. But unfortunately, it just stems from the top. Jonathan Walters is too inexperienced to be a technical director. He's already made one cock up this season, big cock up in changing the manager when he did. Recruitment's not good enough, because we're seeing players signed for decent money and they're not really having much of an impact. And then they end up signing journeymen like Ben Gibson, for example, who are at the tail end of their careers and simply not good enough to be a promotion contender, if you like. And unfortunately, it's the same thing over and over again with Stoke. There is this nasty cycle that they're never going to get out of, because the owners are just too, I don't know whether it's ego, I don't know. But there's everything that's wrong with Stoke was in this game, where they weren't good enough, the players weren't good enough, the approach wasn't good enough, and you couldn't see anything.
That's probably a good thing from a Stoke fan perspective, just not having to watch what was going on the pitch. I mean, we'll talk more about Plymouth shortly, but they've now conceded the most goals in Championship history at this stage of a season. The only team who comes close to conceding as many expected goals as them is Stoke. Now, granted, they haven't conceded anywhere near as many actual goals, but it shows how much of a shambles they are at the back, and they're not exactly Real Madrid going forwards. I mean, I do feel a bit sorry for Narcis Palach, because he seems like a nice, positive chap whenever I hear him doing interviews, what have you. And while he's a very highly rated coach, that doesn't necessarily make you a good manager, and he seems to be one of those who falls into that category. And also seems to be, unfortunately, becoming the latest victim of stokiness. And it's clear fans have had enough of that stokiness. John Malters, sporting director, made a big call in getting rid of Steven Schumacher to get Palach in, and it's massively backfired. And now the fans have turned on him, and he's a club legend, isn't he? And the Coates family facing calls to sell up. It's just all getting a bit ugly, Justin.
It is. And look, I think one thing we can praise the Coates family is their unwavering commitment to financing the club. That's a positive, but they've underwritten everything, haven't they? They've just thrown money at it. Don't expect anything back, but sometimes that's not the best approach. You have to think long term. You have to think sustainably, and you have to think smartly. And I just don't think they have. They've sort of almost knuckle dragged it. Really, they just throw money in a direction, and it's not.
Well, it's strange with Stoke, isn't it? 'Cause they're in a very peculiar position where their owners are absolutely loaded. They're one of the richest families in the country, but because of financial restrictions, they can't spend as much money as they would like. But the money that they are spending is being spent bloody poorly, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, the amount of money, I know they had a couple of seasons where they didn't spend because of financial restrictions from the league. But they still had a very competitive budget, and to not breach the top half at any point since they've come down from the Premier League is a disgrace. It's a disgrace and an absolute, that it's a complete failure from the owners. And I think when you get to that point, I think you have to look at yourselves and go, this isn't quite working out. We should probably look at a different owner with a different mindset and a different mentality to growing a football club, because we're not doing it. We're just not. The ground, how loud were the boos, but no one was there?
It's a very good point. Where are these boos coming from?
Well, yeah, I know it was foggy, but you could see into the stands, and that is a bad of indictment for an ownership as you can get. When you turn away fans from a club, that is as a shining example of a failure as an owner.
Yeah, it's not looking good, is it? At the moment, you talk about top half, they're looking more over their shoulder, aren't they, than looking towards the top half. Leeds have gone back top of the league after Sheffield United's loss to Burnley, and obviously their victory here. Over the last 20 seasons, Justin, 85% of the teams top at this stage of the season have gone on to be automatically promoted. If they've sorted out their away form, then they definitely will be, won't they? We'll probably have a better idea of that when they go to Derby on Sunday, because I'm not sure the Stoke game was a great acid test of Leeds sorting out their away form. It was Frank Lampard v Wayne Rooney at the CBS Arena, and Lampard very firmly came out on top in this one as Coventry smashed Plymouth 4-0. All the goals coming in the first half. Justin, let's be frank, they got Lampard here, didn't they? No, but seriously, Plymouth are shocking.
The joke was terrible. That was a great delivery of the Lampardism. Oh my God. I hope people pick up on that so much. Love that. Do you want me to respond, or is this a
no, go on.
Joke?
Okay. Let's just talk about Plymouth.
Oh no, we can. I want to praise some Coventry and Lampard. It's a good reaction from a 4-1 defeat away from home, isn't it? From Portsmouth, a brilliant reaction. So let's throw some light that way. But yeah, Plymouth are shit. There's no way of sugarcoating it in any way, sense or form. And I think with Wayne Rooney, you've got a manager there who's just incapable of, quite bluntly, being a manager. He's arguably the worst ever manager at two clubs in a row now, at Birmingham and now Plymouth. You've only got to look into the win percentages to really get into that detail. He can't organise a team. You've seen that with the defensive record that they've got this season. They're conceding goals left, right and centre, and going forwards they hope for chances. It's just not enough to sustain results, and he's not plugging the right gaps, is he? They're leaking too many goals, not getting results, and it's just not good enough. Is it all his fault? No, I think the squad is poor, and that Mike Phelan honeymoon is definitely over, but where do they go from here? Oxford made a big decision in getting Gary Rowett. Maybe Plymouth need to as well, because Wayne Rooney has shown that he can't organise a team to be defensively strong. I can't remember which goal it was. It might have been the second or third goal, but Plymouth tried to play it out from the back. And I think it was Adam Randall just turned into, it might have been Josh Eccles, and they gave the ball away and the Coventry scored. It's just the same thing over and over again. It's dreadful. It's dreadful. Unfortunately, I don't think Wayne Rooney's cut out to be a manager. It's showing.
Yeah, well, we'll give a lot of praise to Coventry, I mean, it is worth saying the second half of this game was like a training ground match. Both teams seemed to just accept that this one had been decided early. But yeah, Coventry did absolutely batter Plymouth here. Certainly helps when Josh Eccles puts in a very Lampard-esque performance of his own. But Ephron Mason-Clark, someone who seems to be really enjoying life under the new manager. I always like to see Tatsuhiro Sakamoto having a nice time, Justin, so good to see him on the score sheet. But it was a very easy afternoon, to be honest. And considering Plymouth gave Middlesbrough a good game last time out, they were quite good away at Sheffield United as well. Just before that, we did not see that team here in this game. And look, we could talk about Plymouth's away record. Once again, Justin, we all know it's a shambles, but the sheer number of goals they're conceding home and away is astonishing. They've conceded 49 in 22 games now. It's the most in Championship history at this stage of a season. One clean sheet all season as well. Since the international break, they've let in 23 goals from 7 games. That's over 3 a game, Justin.
Yeah, you're going to get chances against this team. It's astonishing. I don't think it's a case of teams cutting them open. I think Plymouth give you chances. Plymouth will give you chances. It's ridiculous. And that's why I was saying I don't think Wayne Rooney's going out to be a manager. When you've got a team who are literally giving you the opportunity to score, albeit through poor play, you're very easy to work out. You have to be hard to work out as an opposition. You look at the likes of... I'm just looking at teams that are down there. QPR have turned it around. Preston have turned it around. Oxford, off the back of winning their second league game in 16 games, they're looking like they turn around. Portsmouth have turned it around. Plymouth have never looked like they're going to turn anything around. They're just hoping the score stays down. They can stay in the game long enough and get a chance. That's not football. That's not management. That's not tactics. That's not philosophy. That's hoping you're going to get a result, and that's not going to stay. That's not going to keep you in the division, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, but it certainly would help if they tighten up a bit more. But how much tightening is it possible for someone to do? Because the numbers I mentioned a minute ago are eye-watering, aren't they? The strange thing is, though, Justin, obviously, we saw Wayne Rooney's Derby team a hell of a lot. They were pretty solid at the back, weren't they? They were certainly known for being rather pragmatic. But Plymouth are an absolute shambles at the back, like really, really bad. And I'd have thought Mike Phelan coming in would tighten them up. But I suppose Cornel Souks and Lewis Gibson aren't exactly Ferdinand and Vidic, are they? The standard of player that Mike Phelan's usually used to working with. Plymouth games do have a tendency to be a bit mad, and it does certainly feel like Rooney's trying to lean into that at times. But 49 goals conceded in 22 games is just mad, particularly because you can't look at Plymouth's attack and go, yeah, there's enough firepower there to outscore the other teams. So if they're to stand any chance of staying up, they desperately need to tighten up. And we've seen loads of teams do that over the years, haven't we? Just in teams tighten up drastically and then get out of danger. QPR last season, first one that comes to mind for me. But as I say, how much tightening up can you do when you're a coach? Yeah. It seems pretty impossible with this team.
Yeah, it does seem impossible. And as I say, this is why I don't think Wayne Rooney's good enough, because he's not identifying where the plugs are, where the leaks are. What does good plumber do, Ryan? Good plumber will find those leaks. Wayne Rooney is not a good plumber.
Then they may have to just knock this house down if with all these leaks.
It's derelict. It's derelict. It's derelict. It needs to be condemned. It needs to be knocked down. It needs to start again. And unfortunately, I don't think that's going to be in the Championship.
It's just underwater, this house at this stage, isn't it? And the final game we'll discuss is Watford, where a 95th minute winner from Rocco Vata saw them win 2-1 at home against Portsmouth. And just a little story for you right here. I had a £500 accumulator with our friends at SPK for the 3 p.m. games yesterday. All of my bets were coming in apart from Watford. And so I had this game on. It was 1-1 at half-time. At the time when I started watching, and I was watching it like, come on, Watford, please just get that one more. And then Daniel Jefferson misses an open goal. My head is in my hands. I'm thinking, oh, this isn't happening, is it? And then the 95th minute winner, Rocco Vata, pulls it out of nowhere. I'm in my front room, going mad, fist pumping and everything. The final whistle goes, brilliant. Turns out I actually bet on the Watford v Cardiff game on Sunday. Not Watford v Portsmouth. So I had an absolute nightmare. Thinking I just won a lot of money when actually I hadn't. But, you win some, you lose some. Something else that was quite funny was Quadro bars and ticks after this game. He got a red card for taunting the Portsmouth fans and then doing that silly little Fortnite dance in front of the Portsmouth players. What did you think of all that, Justin?
I think it's hilarious. I'm sorry. I think it's absolutely brilliant. It's funny. It's funny. Yes, if it's against your team, if it's against my team, I'm frothing at the mouth in the away end. I am. I'm angry. My team's just lost in the last minute and someone's given me the L dance. But it's a comedy sketch from start to finish. This is firstly the celebrating, then he's being chased off by Portsmouth players, then he's been given a red card. It's great banter, right? Just call him a wanker and get on with it. Like, it's good stuff. It's good stuff.
Apparently, he had been getting a lot of stick from the Portsmouth fans. I don't mind the taunting of the fans. That's funny, and I will always endorse shithousery like that. The Fortnite dance, a bit cringe. I think anyone over the age of 16 doing a Fortnite dance gives me secondhand embarrassment.
It is a little bit embarrassing for an adult to do that, but I've not seen it before, and I think it's just Gen Z just leaking into what we know as football today. And I love that.
It's just the thought process of being a grown man and seeing the Portsmouth players coming towards you, extremely angry, and then you decide to do that.
Dance. It's great. It's great. It's great. Honestly,
it's unbelievable.
I got no words for it. The man should be. There should be no apology. He should be put on a pedestal and worshipped, because the audacity is brilliant. It's so funny.
It wound up the Portsmouth players, didn't it? So I guess it served its purpose in that respect. But just astonishing scenes. It caused a bit of drama after the game as well. John Mousinho said that if one of his players did what Barr did, he might never play for him again. And Tom cleverly said John Mousinho should look at his own behaviour, and says that's what cost Portsmouth in this one. Not entirely sure what he's talking about there, but cleverly did also criticise Barr, saying he was disappointed with his actions. So it's all a bit silly, really, isn't it? And it has somewhat overshadowed a brilliant dramatic win for Watford, Justin.
Has it overshadowed it? Oh, I think it's amplified it. This was your average Championship 2-1 win, a late winner, a lot of drama, absolutely. But this was just one of those games where Watford hang in there. It's tight, and then they get a late winner. We see late winners all the time, Ryan. We see late winners all the time. This is a late winner with next level shithousery. And yes, you say it's overshadowed it, but I wouldn't have given this game a second thought unless Barr did what he did, and I'm in love with it. This should have been top of the running order. We should be talking about this for 45 minutes. They should make a film about this.
You can tell you enjoyed it, Justin. But yeah, what it does do is it keeps Watford's incredible home record up. They've been absolutely astonishing at Vicarage Road this season. So another great win for them here, and it sees them go back into the top six as well. So another massive result, despite what happened after the game. But there we go, ladies and gents. This has been our roundup of the Boxing Day action from across the Championship. We'll be back again on Monday for the final time in 2024 to review Sunday's round of games. So we look forward to seeing you then for that. But this has been the Second-Tier Podcast. I've been Ryan Dilks.
I've been Justin Peach.
And a big thank you for listening.